This exercise is the foot press on the long box. So I've got a long box right here next to my chair. My springs are at one spring on number 2 and one spring on number 1. However, that may change with the amount of body weight that I have. This exercise requires a little bit of body control, a little bit of coordination and awareness. It is something that is difficult to do, and that's a good thing. Now let me speak a little bit about Pilates and about how certain exercises will affect people. Pilates sometimes suffers from a little bit of an image problem. People will expect, oh, I'm doing Pilates. It's this elegant thing. It should be easy. I'm this athlete. I can do all these exercises. It's just going to be a little bit of core work, a little bit of balance. I'm going to slay this exercise. This is an exercise that I will give people in order to open their eyes as to some of the difficulties that you might face when doing exercises and the benefits that can accrue. Here, I have placed the chair so that the wooden frame is about 3 to 4 inches away from this box. If my chair is too close, especially with how this chair is manufactured, what will happen is the pedal goes down and hits the side of the box because it's got a nice thick cushion there. So therefore, I've placed that a little bit out to the side. Your chair that you have in your home or your studio, you may not even have to do this. And notice I've placed myself near a wall. And that's important. If you've got handles on there, you can use the handles, but I've chosen to use this wall. Okay. At which point, I will position my feet so one foot is on the box. I'm holding onto this wall here. The other foot is on the pedal, and my feet are lined up side by side. Now, my feet are directly underneath my sit bones. That's important. A lot of times, people will put this foot near the edge of the box, and that will actually create a little bit of a Q angle at the hips and have this little narrowing, or they'll go too far, and that won't work either. So you want the feet to be lined up directly underneath the hips, at which point there's 2 major variations of this exercise. The first one will be, or the one that I'm going to choose to give you, is you go into this speed skating position where my knees are bent, my hips are back, my spine is neutral, and in this position I start to just lightly pump the pedal. Now what I like to do with my clientele is I'll have people deliberately fail. This exercise is very unstable, so what I do is I'll tell somebody, deliberately push the pedal all the way down, right there. So therefore, they realize what happens when I'm falling off. And then I'll tell them, come completely up, put your shoulder up against the wall like this, so that if they lose their balance and they get flung upwards, they realize the mode of failure. The worst thing that'll happen is you're just going to lean up against this wall, and the worst thing that'll happen here is they'll just bottom out the pedal. Once you see the worst things that can happen, it's kind of a stoic approach to viewing the worst case scenario for this exercise, people realize, oh, that's not the worst thing in the world. I just standing here, or I get, whoo, lifted up, and there I am, right here. So therefore, that will help with any type of injury. If somebody is worried about falling and they try to save the exercise, perhaps they try to dive off or they try to do something strange, that's when they could hurt themselves and twist the knee. So therefore, if you're going to bail, just bail. That's it. And once you see that it's quite safe to do so, you will not have as much of a stress. It's like a bird. If a bird is on a perch or a little tree branch, a bird is not worried if somebody comes up and saws the branch off because it knows it can just fly away. So therefore, the same thing happens here. If you know the worst thing that's going to happen is that, you're going, okay, well, that's great. Now I can pursue the exercise, much like if you're walking on a tightrope and you know you've got a safety net 1 foot underneath you and it's going to catch you, that gives you a lot of peace of mind. All right, so once you're in this position, I want you to watch my face, my demeanor, my attitude as I approach this exercise, and notice the amount of focus that I need in order to pull this exercise off. Notice I'm using my hands to counterbalance. And notice that this exercise is not an exercise that you can take just casually and easily. And so many people are incredibly surprised when they do this move. In fact, they come on expecting to just pump this leg and kind of get on with it and get their burn on. And then the moment they start moving, they instantly crash, or they come on up and they give me this incredulous look on their face like, wow, this exercise is hard. And I respond to them, yes, it is. Now, with practice, what you can do is you can get to the point where you're able to do this type of thing and do some type of counterbalancing move. And because I've done this a lot and I've trained my body, I'm able to do this and it looks easy. What happens is that when you do this exercise, I will have Olympic athletes come here, do this exercise for the first time and be like, wow, what's going on here? I'm losing my balance. I tell them, don't worry about it. Because it would be as if you were an Olympic athlete and you'd never seen a bicycle, much less ridden on one, it's perfectly fine if you fall off the bicycle the first time. If you've never ridden a bicycle and you haven't had that skill set of riding a bicycle, you don't possess that, there's absolutely no shame in not being able to ride a bicycle. So the first time you do this, you may be all over the place, but then this exercise is then designed to promote all of this hip intrinsic strength. All of my foot is working on this box in order to keep my balance, and I really have to work on my coordination in order to do this exercise. So this spring set is deliberately chosen. I like to say it is too light to be useful, but just heavy enough to be obnoxious, and that's exactly what you want. You don't want this so heavy that you can just rest your weight on this, or you don't want to be so light that you can just power through and overpower the springs. It should be just enough that you have to move your center of gravity laterally back and forth in a minute fashion in order to get that effect you're looking for. Now, the other variation of this exercise is where instead of the box leg remaining still and the pedal leg is the thing that's moving, you stand up straight. Deliberately shift your body weight back so that the pedal leg remains still and the box leg is the one that moves. And when you first start, it's probably going to look something like this. And eventually, as you get better at this, you can do this right here. It's almost like you're riding a carousel horse, just going straight up and down. As you do this, a lot of people will ask, how do you succeed at this exercise? Well, here's how you succeed. You do it in steps. First, you put the hand on the pedal. And when you first do this, you're going to be like, wow, this is the exercise, this is easy. The moment you remove this hand, that's when things get exciting. So you can hold on to the pedal to start. Then lighten it up so you just have a little bit of feedback on this, and then eventually progress to maybe a fingertip or two so you're getting constant feedback from your nervous system, and then you can take your hand off and now you're working kind of in a vacuum without any type of external assistance. Now, when you do this type of movement here, one little note, if you lack dorsiflexion in this foot, this is going to be extraordinarily difficult. In essence, this is what PTs call a Peter step down. So you have this motion here. Notice that my knee is going slightly forward, and I require a certain amount of flexibility in my ankles. In fact, I have one student who is extraordinarily strong and coordinated, but because she has ankle surgery, she cannot do this exercise well, only because her ankle is restricted. So just realize that this ankle has to be fairly flexible in dorsiflexion to be able to pull off this version of the exercise. Now, as you do this, a couple of things to take note of. What you don't want is to, as a teacher, provide too much feedback during the middle of the exercise. This is an exercise where it's integrative. You're not doing an isolation. The whole body is working as a unit. You are coordinating your body, mind, and breath. So therefore, if you provide feedback such as make sure your knee's pointing this way, oh, relax your shoulders, pull your abs in, you're probably going to cause too much confusion in your client. That's like if you see a toddler trying to learn how to walk. They're doing this holistically. They're coordinating the whole body, and you're not going to tell a little toddler, hey there, kiddo, pull your transversus abdominis in, that'll help. No, they're going to learn experientially. So when you have somebody doing this, I deliberately don't say things like, oh, that's good, you're doing a great job here, because then that's going to take them out of the flow, out of the moment. You want this to be an instance, just like when you're skiing. When you're skiing, you're not thinking about, particular, flexibility in the adductor muscles. You're trying just to stay on top of that run. Or if you're surfing, you're in the moment. So where all of your body, mind, your faculties are coming together to do a performance. It is a performative exercise. That's a good way to put it. And so in this case, if there's anything that you want to think about, it might be your breathing. When we do lots of Pilates work, we concentrate on the breathing. And you may think that that's something that's overstated. However, when you're doing an exercise like this, when you have to pull everything together, concentrating on the breathing really pays off. Here's where it actually provides tangible benefits. So if you are having trouble coordinating your body in an exercise like this that demands whole body focus and concentration, I would recommend you concentrate on your breath. A couple other things as you do this exercise. Please don't get stuck on the speed of action of this foot and or the range of motion. Sure, if you get really good, you can go up and down quite a bit. Depends on your leg length, depends on your torso length, and your flexibility. But when you are in a class, please do not try to follow somebody else. And if they're really good at this and they're just pumping away at a certain speed, do not try to copy that person's speed. Do not try to copy that person's range of motion, thinking, oh, I'm having a rough time of this, I'm not doing it, I must be doing something wrong. I'll follow that other person. They're going faster, and therefore that must be the key to doing this correctly. Not true. You want to concentrate, pay attention just to yourself and your ability to develop your own physical attributes. This is where one instance where doing this in a vacuum might be better without anybody else and just doing it in a private setting. The ability then to have all this kind of hip stability and mobility while you have an unstable surface is something that you really want to be able to develop eventually. So notice I've got one foot on a stable surface, one foot on an unstable surface, and that provides a real challenge towards your body coordination. So that is the foot press on the long box.